Oh dear, I just noticed I have a little poo on my shirt, but I'm ticker happy, and you are to have told me before I started this whole thing. I tried stand up once before, but everyone told me to sit back down. I felt seated, but we'll try again. Someone told me to put a tree nut and run it around vigorously in my mouth to help combat anxiety. And then if you don't succeed, try again. I'm not a wallflower, but I am a walnut. I try to be politically correct, but isn't that an oxymoron? I'm not seeing much at all correct in our current political state. Then I see yesterday that Robert Kennedy is tossing his hat in for a presidential bid. That's pretty beret of him. Did he ask his advisor? I'm fedora up with it all and think we should have a cap on all of the commercials already, and I'm not brimming with excitement. Seriously, he and I have the same diagnosis called spasmodic dysphonia, or SD for short, which is a neurological disease where the brain sends wrong messages to the vocal cords to spasm. Thankfully, mine has gotten much better over the years, but it's a strain, to be sure. It's a catch-22 in my voice. I should go into archery with this quiver of mine, but then I need to buy an arrow shirt. Laughter is truly the best medicine and really helps. The problem is I'm just not that funny, but bear with me as I try to take this leap. It struck a vocal chord with me when I was diagnosed over 20 years ago. I literally had no voice to speak of, pun intended as usual back then. I literally got choked up when I was diagnosed, and I found it hard to swallow. Uvula should have been there. My favorite makeup? SD louder, of course. Everyone speaks louder to you, even though you're the one with the voice disorder and your hearing's fine. In my biking group, I'm a spokes, but not a speaks person. Diane Rehm, who used to be a host on NPR, also has it. Selma Hayek is probably the most recent celebrity to shine light on it. And Dilbert's creator, Adam Scott, also has it. I thought Kermit the Frog did, but then I realized it was just a frog in his throat. Tremor or Trevor Noah does not. The only time back then that I had a voice was when I chewed on those long green baby onions. They wrote a song about it. Chive talking. While it has no cure, Botox is a treatment option that typically gives you about a 3-month respite. I no longer use it, but it was a godsend over the 10 years, more than 10 years. It's not fun though, and it involved numerous trips to Boston, and I wasn't able to find a specialist with a hand tremor, which is also a movement disorder, who might have been able to help me with my wrinkles. Bear with me here. This is like my 50th attempt at this, so I'm going to keep going. And I am having to look at my notes because I am nervous. All right, here we go. When you leave, you might get stared at as you take the elevator down, as they use a needle on either side of your neck where they put the Botox. It's really awful. And you get these tiny little puncture with little blood spots. So to allay the awkwardness, I just tell folks that stare at me that I ran into Dracula, but thanks for asking. He went to bat for me, though, and I'd give my eye tooth sometimes to be a vampire myself, but I faint at the taste of blood. How ironic. Ick. Anyway, he was in a tree, but his bark was not worse than his bite. He sucks. I showed him my cross, and he had a coffin fit, and that was the end of it. Once, and only once, being a multitasker, I made the mistake of getting my Botox in my voice, my throat, along with the removal of a skin cancer from my face and a perm all on the same day. I felt like such a stooge, or 3 stooges, larynx, Mose, and Curly. So, can you believe it? It's 3 years since COVID rocked our world. I admit to breaking a couple of the commandments. I got my across the street friend's domestic goddess sick, and sadly, I did COVID my neighbor's wife. I got sick of adulterating with the 3 of us, me, myself, and I. I'm not too artistic, but I did end up making voodoo dolls for people who had ticked me off, and I used those big, googly plastic discs on the face. Yep, I admit to worshiping false eye dolls. I resented my hand sanitizer and had impural thoughts, but now I'm washed clean. What a phenomenon when Zoom was embraced. Who had even heard of it before? Even my exercise Latino dance class helped battle my holiday lockdown depression. You've probably heard of Zoom bah humbug. I had to wear my hair in a scroogey. My head was in the clouds, and I realized I was getting too serious. It had a cumulus effect on me, and so I did some therapeutic guitar playing on my stratosphere. Everything seemed to rain on my parade. Didn't we all feel like we were in a fog? But somehow we weathered it, don't you know? Hail and farewell already. We were all afraid if we weren't 6 feet apart, then we'd be 6 feet under. But here we are 3 years later, more resilient, better in some ways and worse in others. But hopefully we can still laugh and cut each other a break.